Hello, and welcome to another Read With Me. I am Isabel Bedell, and I am here to read with you another chapter of this amazing book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Now, this book is a classic, this book is a gem, and it's one of those books that you can read once and you want to read it again, maybe after a couple of years that have passed, especially with how the economy changes. Right now, we're in a position where a lot of wealth transfer is being activated. And it's important to understand the principles in money because it's not the same as entrepreneurship, for example. The principles of money is actually maybe the complete opposite of what entrepreneurship is. Just to give you some context, entrepreneurship, I'm sure you've heard it and maybe you haven't, but this is typically what they say. Whether you own a business, whether you work at a business, it's work hard, put in the hours, make sure to come in early and leave late. Uh, Put your attention on it. You know, you have to consistently be um, grinding it out, right? That's what I believe a lot of the messaging around entrepreneurship is. And then it's all about frugality in a way. It's about make sure to fire fast, hire slow. Make sure to get the best deals. Make sure to get the most important people inside and get rid of the heavyweights outside. Keep a very lean machine running, right? Now, that falls in the entrepreneurship side. And then here we go with the money principles, the investment principles, where it's all about abundance and freedom and letting it be, letting the system run. So, for example, in the last chapter for The Richest Man in Babylon, it said just save 1/10 of what your income is. Okay. So you're saying if I earn, let's say, $1,000, all I have to save is a minimum of $100 in order for me to start my journey. Okay, cool. That's very easy. That's very doable. Okay. Also, when it comes to investing, it's all about allowing the time to take place. So you're allowing your money to work for you. And how does that happen? Well, similar to what they were saying here. Let's say you earn 1,000, now you're saving 100, and then you put that 100 into a storage. A storage, it could be either into, let's say, an investing account or a savings account, or just leaving it cash somewhere. I don't recommend that, but you can do that and allowing that to compound over time, where now that 100 now turns into over a year's time, 1,200, because you've been saving 1/10 of every single month if your income stays the same. Hopefully it increases and increases. However, the principles, the foundations of investing are there. And then when you're gradually compounding that, then you have to allocate that chunk into something that producing, similar to like entrepreneurship, how you hire someone and they duplicate the task that you already do, but now you're now doing something else. You've duplicated yourself. The investing world, it's the very same principle of duplicating what has been done, and now you're allowing that money to make more money for you. That's what we're about to go into, the duplication part, the compounding of it all. In this particular video, we're going to start the 7 cures, okay? The 7 cures for a lean purse. So I love how the language is in this book because it's so old and it has a twang to it. and it has its own uniqueness to it. So in this particular video, we're going to cover the 7 cures. So we're going to go from cures 1 to 3, and in the next video, we're going to go from cures 4 to 7. Okay? All right, let's get into it, shall we? Actually, you know what I'll do? Just to make it easier, is each cure, I'm going to do a video. And I just thought about this like right now, just because of the intensity of each particular cure and how important it is for each cure to be listened to be analyzed, to be contemplated with, and to be really thought of. So I'll be doing 7 little videos for you. Okay, let's get into it. We're going to start with the first of the 7 cures. Okay, 7 cures for a lean purse. The glory of Babylon endures. Down through the ages, its reputation comes to us, the richest of cities, its treasures as fabulous. Yet, it was not always so. The riches of Babylon were the result of the wisdom of its people. The first had to learn how to become wealthy. When the good king Sargon returned to Babylon after defeating his enemies, the Elamites, he was confronted with a serious situation. The royal chancellor explained to the king, thus, after many years of great prosperity brought to our people because of your majesty, built the great irrigation canals and the mighty temples of God. Now that these works are completed, the people seem unable to support themselves. The laborers are without employment. The merchants have few customers. The farmers are unable to sell their produce, and the people have not enough gold to buy food. But where has all the gold gone that we spent for these great improvements? Demanded the king. It has found its way, I fear, responded the chancellor, into the possession of a very few rich men in our city. It filtered through the fingers of most of our people as quickly as goat's milk goes through the strainer. Now that stream of gold has ceased to flow, most of our people have gone nothing to show for their earnings. The king was thoughtful for the time. Then he asked, why should so few men be able to acquire all the gold? Well, because they know how, replied the chancellor. One may not condemn a man for succeeding because he knows how. Neither may one with justice take away from a man what he has fairly earned to give to men of less ability. But why? Demanded the king. Should not all the people learn how to accumulate gold and therefore become themselves rich and prosperous? Quite possible, Your Excellency. But who can teach them? Certainly not the priest, because they not know of money, mastery. They not know of money making. Who knows best in all of our city to become wealthy, Chancellor? Asked the king. Well, the question itself answers itself, Your Majesty. Who has amassed the greatest wealth in Babylon? Well, said May able Chancellor, it is Arkad. He is the richest man in Babylon. Bring him before me tomorrow. Upon the following day, as the king had decreed, Arkad appeared before him straight and sprightly despite his 70 years. Arkad spoke to the king. Is it true thou art the richest man in Babylon? So it is reported, Your Majesty, and no man disputes it. How becameth thou so wealthy? The king asked. By taking advantage of opportunities available to all citizens of our good city. Thou hast nothing to start with? The king asked. Only a great desire for wealth. Besides this, nothing. Arkad, continued the king, our city is in a very unhappy state because a few men know how to acquire wealth and therefore monopolized it, while the mass of our citizens lack the knowledge of how to keep any part of the gold they receive. It is my desire that Babylon be the wealthiest city in the world. Therefore, it must be a city of many wealthy men. Therefore, we must teach all the people how to acquire riches. So tell me, Arkad, is mere any secret to acquiring wealth? Can it be taught? It is practical, Your Majesty, Arkad said. That which one man knows how to can be taught to others. The king's eyes glowed. Well, Arkad, thou speakest the worth I wish to hear. Wilt thou lend thyself to the great cause? Wilt thou teach thy knowledge to a school for teachers, each of whom shall teach others until there are enough trained to teach these truths to every worthy subject in my domain? Arkad bowed and said, Hey, I am thy humble servant to command. Whatever knowledge I possess will I gladly give for the betterment of my fellow men and the glory of my king. Let your good chancellor arrange for me a class of 100 men, and I will teach them those 7 cures which did fatten my purse. Man, which Mir was no leaner in all about Babylon. A fortnight later, in compliance with the king's 7 cures for the king's command, the chosen hundreds assembled in the great hall of the Temple of Learning, seated upon colorful rings in a semicircle. Arkad sat beside a small torbet upon which smoked a sacred lamp, sending forth a strange and pleasant odor. All right, let me just stop right here and just tell you guys what's up. Okay, so Babylon right now is going through maybe like not a recession. I wouldn't call it a recession or an inflation, but it's kind of like in a wobbly state. Okay, there's people that hold all the power, the like let's call it the 1%, but then it's a very small few people. But then that 1% actually control the 99% of the city. Okay, and then that city is supposed to be the richest city in all of this land, Babylon. And then the king was like, what's going on? What's the issue here? And then they brought it to Arkad, the richest man in Babylon, and he suggested, hey, why don't you teach the people? Why don't you help them become wealthy, just like you did, since you came from nothing, right? And Arkad's like, yeah, of course. I will teach them. I'll even set up a whole class, right? So now they're all set up, and there's like 100 people in this class. And Arkad is about to share with them the 7 cures for a lean purse. Okay. And a lean purse, if you're wondering, when a lean purse is lean, it's like this, okay? It has nothing in it, okay? You want a stack. You want a stack of money, and in this case, gold. So that's what the 7 cures are to a lean purse, from going to lean to fat. So let's get into it. Behold, the richest man in Babylon, whispered a student, nudging his neighbor, as Arkad rose. He is the man, even as the rest of us. He is but only a man, even just like us. As a dutiful subject of our great king, Arkad began, I stand before you as in great service, because once I was poor youth, who did greatly desire gold, I, because I found the knowledge that enabled me to acquire it. He asked us to pour onto you my knowledge. I started my fortune in the humblest way. I had no advantage in it, not enjoyed as fully by you and every citizen in Babylon. The first storehouse of my treasure was a well-worn purse. I loathed its useless emptiness. I desired that it be round and full, clinking with the sound of gold. Therefore, I sought every remedy for a lean purse. I found 7. To you who are assembled before me, shall I explain the 7 cures for a lean purse, which I do recommend to all men who desire much gold. And each day for 7 days will I explain to you one of the 7 remedies. Listen attentively to the knowledge that I will impart. Debate it with me, discuss it among yourself, learn those lessons thoroughly, that ye may also plant in your own purse the seed of wealth. And first must each of you start wisely to build a fortune of your own. Then wilt thou be competent, and only then, to teach these truths to others. I shall teach you in the simplest ways how to fatten your purses. This is the first step leading to the temple of wealth, and no man may climb who cannot plant his feet firmly upon the first step. We shall now consider the first cure, okay? And in the next video, I will go into the first cure, okay? Start thy purse to fattening, okay? So this was pretty much the little intro into the 7 cures. And it's so important to understand that there's a big difference, okay? When it comes to the hustle and grind culture to then the investing and allowing it to grow and allowing it to compound, because it's 2 different energies. You need both, obviously, to one, you want to, build something that lasts, that's lean, that's efficient, that's constantly growing, and it's producing income. Maybe that's your income machine. But then the other one, you need to make sure that that income flows into it and it's organized in a way that allows compounding, time, and most importantly, patience to play out. And we're going to go into the first cure in the next video where we cover the 7 cures to a lean purse. I shall see you in the next video. Talk to you soon.